Hey adventurers, so today is going to be another book review. This is going to be for The Crimes of Rooker Flynn by A.R. Witham. So this is portal fantasy, action, thriller, a little bit of YA or new adult, but it's definitely, it's less YA. This one is definitely more for a little bit older audience than The Legend of Blackjack was. The Crimes of Rooker Flynn is the first book in the Locke Institute trilogy by A.R. Witham. This series takes place after the events of The Legend of Blackjack, so it's kind of a follow-up series to The Legend of Blackjack. And while it would be beneficial to have read Blackjack before this, it is not actually necessary because this series, the Locke Institute series, is a standalone series, and it's set, while yes, it's part of the Keymark world and universe, this is its own storyline. There's ties to Blackjack, but there's not things that's going to affect the story that if you haven't read Blackjack, you won't understand what they're doing. However, I would recommend that you read Blackjack before you read Crimes of Rooker Flynn, especially since it introduces you to the world and helps you understand things a bit better. This book does tell its own independent story though, and that's really all that I'm saying with that. Can read this series without reading Blackjack. I would recommend reading Blackjack first. Before I continue on with this review and get into the main body here, I'd just quickly like to say if you're liking what you're seeing from an Erudite adventure, please like, comment, and subscribe. I'm unimaginably impressed by A.R. Witham as a writer. His stories have just been working so well for me, even though I've only read 2 so far. Everything about his books, from the characters and the world building to the pacing and the actual story construction, it's just really, really well done. Witham knows exactly what he wants from the story and delivers exactly that with little deviation or filler. That's not to say, though, that there aren't moments of respite from the relentlessness of these books. Even though the pacing is constant, it's fast paced, there's always something going on, there are moments of respite in the amongst all this relentless goings on of these books. I will admit, though, when I first heard that the next Kmark book was going to be about Rooker Flynn, I was a little bit disappointed. It's not that I dislike the character, it's just that I'd grown so attached to Jack and his story that I just wanted more of him and Nepenthe, and I just didn't want to read a story about Rooker Flynn. I wanted to read more about Jack, and so I was a little bit disappointed when I first heard about that. But my disappointment rapidly changed to enjoyment. There's a huge amount of charm to this scoundrel character, and the story just wins you over so quickly. It's sure, if you're like me, Blackjack, you wanted to learn more about Jack, you wanted to follow his storyline more. But then you start reading Rooker Flynn and you're just like, okay, I'm down. I want to read this story. I'm having so much fun. And it's immediate that you're having fun. It's the voice that he gives to this character, the way that he tells these stories, you're just immediately drawn in. This is not the same genre as Blackjack, though. This is straight up horror half the time and stress the rest of it. It's a interesting mix of genres, and it works really well for the story being told. It's a much darker tale than Blackjack is, and that is something that you should be aware of going into it if you've only ever read Blackjack and are thinking, oh, this is going to be another fun, lighthearted, even though Blackjack had moments of horror and darkness as well. This is all of that. Like, there's very little that's just happy-go-lucky in this book. Witham manages to take something that in The Legend of Blackjack was beautiful and amazing, and then he brilliantly twists that and makes it into the most hideous and horrifying thing it could possibly be. And like, I as a writer would never think to do that, or as a storyteller, I would never think to take this thing that was used in Blackjack and be like, oh, this is really nice, this is a good thing, and then find a way to twist it so horribly as Witham did in this series. And that's not a negative from me. That's something that I'm like hugely positive on him as an author, being able to do that and make it so convincing. He also, Witham that is, explores some really interesting themes and ideas in this book. Groupthink is one of them, control, and just so much else. But the one that really stood out especially strongly to me was what happens when a genuinely good man is placed in a situation with bad, corrupt, and lying people all around. And then Witham explores how he responds to that and how how it's perceived, how this good character's reactions and actions are being perceived by the rest of the people around him. And that's something that I'm sure it's explored in other places, but it just really resonated with me and stood out to me in the Legend of Blackjack here, in the Crimes of Rooker Flynn here. As with the Legend of Blackjack, this may not technically be absolutely perfect in every way. I'm not qualified to say whether it is or not, but if there are any imperfections, it makes up for them in just being so fun to read. These books are just, Witham just knows how to write a fun book. That's beside the fact that they're great stories, that they're engaging characters, an interesting world. Beside all that, they're just fun books. With Blackjack, I think I had like 2 or 3 really, really very minor critiques, just things that didn't work for me mostly. But I don't think I had any with Rooker Flynn, with Crimes of Rooker Flynn here. Other than maybe where he chose to close the book, but that's a me, my personal opinions, my personal taste type thing. But I also understand that this is book 1 of a trilogy. This is the first part of the story, and the next 2 books are not going to take that long to come out. The next one, book 2, comes out in January, and I believe, and then book 3 comes out in summer of next year. And so they're coming out really quickly, and it's not going to be too long before I can have the rest of this story. And so I don't mind so much that the place that this first book left off, even though it's not my favorite way to end a book. But Witham, he knows how to write a really good cliffhanger ending, and I'm certainly looking forward to reading books 2 and 3. I think the one true issue I had with this book was the fact that I read it digitally, and that's a problem for me. That's a me problem. Again, I have my phone to read ebooks off of, and that's it. That's my only e-reader. And so I don't enjoy reading ebooks very much at all. I don't like the format. I don't like the feel of holding a phone in my hand and reading off of it for lengthy periods of time. That's just not enjoyable to me. I'd much rather listen to an audiobook or read a physical book, which I know that Witham does his own audiobooks, and I don't remember, he may have had the audiobook done by the time I finished reading this, but either way, I chose to read it on ebook because that was what was more accessible, more easy for me to do at that time. And so it was by choice that I chose my least favorite way to read for this book. And so it has nothing to do with the book. It has nothing to do with the formatting of the ebook or anything like that. It's purely just personal opinion, and that's my only problem that I really had with this book, and that's a me problem. So nothing to do with the story or the formatting, just I don't like reading on my phone. But I guess if you're reading an ARC or a free copy, you can't really be too picky about the format. It's just, okay, I got a free book, let's read it type thing. I will mention right here, if you have arachnophobia, you may not want to read this book, as you can probably tell by the cover. I'm just going to mention that there and move on, close out this review here. I don't really tend to give actual ratings in my reviews. Most of the time, sometimes I do, and so I'm not really going to here, but suffice it to say, once again, A.R. Witham has written one of my favorite books of the year. And this year, I haven't read a ton of books, but that doesn't have anything to do with the number of books that I have read, but rather the quality of this one. And just like with Legend of Blackjack, the amount of fun that I've had reading these books can boost my ranking of them so high, so much, that even if there are flaws, even if there are imperfections, I just enjoyed the book so much, and I enjoyed my time with the book so much that really overcomes any of the faults that I may have with it. And so just once again, a really, really good book from A.R. Witham, and I'm so excited to read book 2. I'm so excited still to read Tale of the Border Knight, which is a novella that he wrote set in the past of the Keymark world, and I haven't read it yet. I have read his short story In the Advent of Winter, and that was amazing as well. That was just a little bit terrifying, a little bit dark, and it was fun. So I'm just excited to read more of A.R. Witham. So anyways, that is my review for The Crimes of Rooker Flynn by A.R. Witham. Thank you guys for watching an Erudite Adventure. We will see you guys again soon. Stay warm.